In today's relentless world, each of us has likely stopped at some point to ask, is it owning more, a luxurious home, a sleek new car, or a bank balance so vast that stress never dares return? Yet, in sharp contrast, we encounter individuals living with barely enough who somehow exude genuine peace. They possess almost nothing, yet wear serene smiles. They have neither wealth nor recognition, but their minds are unburdened. What truly brings joy? Meanwhile, those surrounded by every comfort, the symbols of success, often feel hollow, anxious, or quietly resentful. The contrast does not lie in what each group has, but rather in how they interpret what they have. This is the exact insight that Stoic thinkers grasped centuries ago. To live a calm and meaningful life, we must not aim to bend the world to our desires. We must instead guide our minds to see clearly, especially when everything seems to fall apart. And that's what we'll explore today. How timeless Stoic wisdom can teach us to reshape our perspective and discover happiness that isn't dependent on material gain. 1. The mirage of material joy. What defines happiness? Is it about spacious homes, high-end vehicles, or overflowing financial accounts? It's easy to fall into the belief that fulfillment comes from things we can acquire and show off. From early childhood, society encourages us to chase after symbols, status, income, lifestyle upgrades. Advertisements, social feeds, and casual conversations constantly whisper the same message. Happiness lies in your next purchase. Yet beneath this cultural programming, a quiet question lingers. Why do some who have less appear far more content than those who have everything? Why do those with limited means often seem more at peace than those living in abundance? To answer that, we need to look beyond what happiness appears to be, and instead focus on where it truly originates. Far too often, we fall into the trap of believing that external improvements will lead to internal peace. If I had that home, I'd be fulfilled. If I drove that car or wore those clothes, I'd finally feel successful. But this belief leads to a never-ending chase. There's always something newer, faster, flashier. Each milestone achieved becomes just another stepping stone to the next. And the joy we hoped for? It fades almost immediately. That new home becomes ordinary. The car, once shiny and thrilling, dulls in both paint and novelty. The excitement dissolves into the mundane routine of daily life, leaving behind the same longing as before, now aimed at a different object. This is the treadmill so many remain trapped on, a cycle of desire and disappointment, a pursuit that promises joy but delivers only brief relief before new cravings emerge. 2. True contentment can't be purchased. Authentic happiness, deep, lasting peace, cannot be bought, gifted, or chased. It doesn't emerge from luxury or prestige. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy, a worldview that has helped generations look past fleeting comforts toward a sturdier, more enduring form of contentment. The Stoics, who lived in turbulent times much like our own, saw clearly that anything external, wealth, possessions, even relationships, can vanish in an instant. Fires destroy, economies collapse, fame fades. If your peace is tied to these fragile things, it will crumble right along with them. Instead, the Stoics pointed to the only territory we can fully command, our inner world, our thoughts, our perspective, and the meaning we attach to our experiences. Epictetus, a Stoic born into slavery, said it best. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. His words remain revolutionary even today. True wealth, and by extension true joy, is not about abundance, but about attitude. The person who constantly wants more will never be satisfied. But the one who masters their desires and finds joy in simplicity holds the key to genuine peace. It's not about what's in your hands, it's about how you view what's in your hands. 3. Reframing how we measure worth. This idea is simple to grasp, but profoundly difficult to apply, because it demands we rewrite our relationship with the world. Society has conditioned us to see possessions as proof of worth. But the Stoic path challenges us to walk away from this scoreboard and reimagine what matters most. It urges us to pause and appreciate what we already possess, to recognize the richness of life even without extravagance. Because when you ask, "What do I really need to be happy?" the answer rarely lies in objects, it lies in clarity of mind. Despite modern assumptions, luxury and convenience are no guarantees of happiness. In fact, history shows that some of the most joyful people live modestly. Laughter in small homes, peace without prestige. Meanwhile, others, despite outward wealth, live shackled by anxiety and a never-ending hunger for more. The distinction isn't found in what surrounds them, but in the state of mind within them. 4. Inner mastery over outer control. The Stoics knew that the outer world is always in flux. The only permanent refuge is found within. Happiness, therefore, isn't about acquiring, but about appreciating. It's not about stacking up wins, but about embracing what already is. When we focus on what's missing, we feed dissatisfaction. But when we shift to seeing the value in what we already have, we escape the grip of comparison and restlessness. That's not to say the Stoics rejected pleasure or comfort. Far from it. They simply warned against letting possessions dominate our well-being. Enjoy what you have, but never let it become your master. Because when your joy is tethered to income, gadgets, or the praise of others, it becomes fragile, exposed to every fluctuation of fate. Instead, the Stoic invitation is to build happiness on what no one can take from you: your principles, your choices, your integrity. Even if everything material was stripped away, the person who has trained their thoughts, refined their judgment, and grounded themselves in virtue still holds the rarest treasure of all: unshakable tranquility. 5. The path forward, noticing and training the mind. But how do we begin this journey? How do we actually live out this wisdom? It starts with awareness. Notice when your mood shifts because of something outside your control. A delayed flight, a rude comment, a dip in your investments. These are invitations to reflect. Why is this disrupting my peace? These reactions aren't laws of nature, they're habits, and habits can be reshaped. The Stoics invite us to interrogate these patterns. Why should a stranger's opinion ruin your day? Why should a broken item dictate your self-worth? If these things are beyond your control, let them go. What you can control, always, is how you interpret what's happening. Meet challenges with calm, seek lessons in hardship. Train your mind to spot value where others only see loss. That doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending all is well. Life will bring suffering. The Stoic path doesn't demand detachment from emotion, but rather courage in how we respond. Pain is inevitable, but despair is optional. 6. Liberating ourselves from external validation. Many people anchor their happiness to how others perceive them. They crave compliments, fear disapproval, and live in reaction to external judgment. But if your peace hinges on someone else's mood or opinion, it will always be at risk. Stoicism teaches us to anchor self-worth internally, measuring our lives by the values we live, not the applause we receive. As you practice this shift, you'll notice something powerful. You'll become less reactive. You'll start to find beauty in small things, a gentle breeze, a moment of silence, a kind word. Life will feel richer, not because you own more, but because you notice more. 7. A different kind of wealth. Ultimately, happiness isn't a trophy waiting at the end of a long road. It's a mindset, a daily practice of choosing awareness over impulse, gratitude over comparison, and clarity over craving. The material world will always dance to its own rhythm, but we can choose how we dance with it. So the next time you feel the tug of desire, that itch for something new, something better, pause and ask, is this what I truly need to be at peace? Or am I overlooking the joy that's already here? The Stoics remind us you need very little to live well. And when you embrace that truth, you step off the exhausting treadmill of desire and into a steadier rhythm of contentment. This isn't a secret reserved for the lucky few. It's available to all of us, right now, if we're willing to look inward and begin the quiet work of training the mind. Part 2. Carrying your own weather, shifting from reactive to resilient. Life unfolds as a never-ending stream of experiences, some gentle, some chaotic. What's fascinating, and often overlooked, is just how differently people interpret these same experiences. Some glide through adversity with a quiet calm that almost seems supernatural. Others are tossed about by every change, their emotions surging and sinking with the tides of external fortune. The Stoics saw this not as a matter of luck or personality, but of mindset. To them, how we feel is shaped not by events themselves, but by the meaning we assign to them. They urged us to stop reacting and start choosing, to develop a steady internal compass, no matter the external conditions. You may have heard the expression, "Some people bring their own weather." It might sound whimsical, but in Stoic philosophy, it's a profound truth. Some walk through life with a kind of inner climate that isn't dictated by what's going on around them. Rain or shine, failure or success, they carry calm. They don't wait for peace, they generate it. 1. A tale of two attitudes. Now consider a familiar cultural ritual, the way many people treat Friday and Monday. In Western culture, Friday is celebrated as liberation, the finish line after a hard week. People are upbeat, energetic, full of plans. Laughter comes easily. Joy is socially permitted. But come Monday, the mood collapses. Groans flood social media. Back to reality, they say. People drag themselves into the day as if joy had been boxed up over the weekend and won't be available again until Friday comes back around. This weekly emotional roller coaster is so widespread that few stop to question it. But the underlying message is loud and clear. Happiness is something handed to us by the calendar. Peace is granted only under the right external conditions. Our mood is leased out to the day of the week. But what if that pattern isn't inevitable? What if it's a habit, one we could unlearn? The Stoics believed we could take that power back, that we could live with the same sense of calm and presence on Monday morning as we do on a Friday evening, not because the world changed, but because we did. 2. Choosing the lens you use. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This statement isn't just inspirational, it's a strategy. It reframes the entire pursuit of emotional stability. If we accept that the world will always be unpredictable, then the only consistent power we have is how we interpret and respond to it. Disruptions, setbacks, frustrations, they are not anomalies, they are life. But within each one is the opportunity to choose a different meaning. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we begin to ask, "How do I want to respond to this?" Let's return to that weekly rhythm. Friday versus Monday. It's not about the days, it's about a deeper tendency to wait for life to grant us permission to feel good. We postpone joy until external events align in our favor. We delay peace until the universe cooperates. But the Stoics would challenge that delay. They'd ask, what if you didn't wait? What if you practiced generating peace on demand, no matter the conditions? 3. Most people wait, some create. Most people go through life reacting to whatever the day hands them. They ride the highs of good news and crumble at bad ones. Their peace is conditional. If things go well, they feel okay. If not, their mood disintegrates. But then, there are those rare individuals who seem to live by a different rulebook. They encounter difficulty with grace. They don't pretend everything's fine, but they don't collapse either. They've trained their minds to find something meaningful in every moment, even the painful ones. They've become the authors of their emotional story. This ability isn't something you're born with. It's developed through reflection, through choices, through repetition. It starts with one realization. Most of life is outside your control, but your interpretation of life is always yours to shape. You can't prevent storms, but you can decide what kind of shelter you become. 4. Reaction or reflection? It's easy to blame external conditions for internal turmoil. When traffic ruins your commute, when someone disappoints you, when plans collapse, it's natural to feel frustration. But feeling something doesn't mean feeding it. Stoicism asks us to pause in those moments and ask, is this feeling helpful? Do I really want to let this moment control me? The discipline isn't about denying emotion. It's about choosing whether to indulge it. Consider how many people give away their inner peace for the smallest reasons. A critical comment, a weather forecast, a delayed email. If these things can shake you, how often are you really in control of your own well-being? Training the mind means noticing those moments. It means developing the habit of asking, what else could this mean? It means turning irritation into insight. 5. Reclaiming emotional authority. Imagine a version of your life where your emotions weren't on a leash held by circumstances, where you woke up on Monday with the same calm as Sunday. Not because the schedule changed, but because you didn't. That's not fantasy. That's the Stoic goal, emotional sovereignty. It doesn't mean you won't feel sadness or stress or doubt. It means you'll stop being ruled by them. You'll develop a new kind of strength, not the strength to force the world to comply, but the strength to remain unmoved when it doesn't. This is the muscle the Stoics trained, day after day, moment by moment. 6. Peace is not a destination. Peace is not a place we reach once life finally behaves. It's not what happens after the problems go away. Peace is what we choose in the middle of the mess. It's the calm we cultivate, not after, but during chaos. The Stoics didn't promise an easy life, but they promised a powerful one. A life in which your deepest emotions are no longer determined by promotions, delays, comments, or the calendar. They encouraged us to carry our own weather, to build an internal atmosphere that's resistant to the climate around us. 7. Becoming the source of your own calm. What separates the anxious from the anchored is not fortune, it's focus. Those who carry their own weather have learned that joy is not something to wait for. It's something to generate, not later, not someday, but now, in this moment. Even when the outer world feels grey and unkind. And the way we begin? Simple. Not easy, but simple. Notice your thoughts. Question your reactions. Choose your response. In traffic, in conflict, in disappointment. Pause. Ask yourself, is this worth sacrificing my peace? What would a calm, grounded version of me do right now? At first, the shift will feel subtle, but keep going. Over time, Mondays lose their sting. Delays feel less personal. The world stops being something that happens to you and begins to feel like something you are actively shaping. This is the Stoic way. Not a life without problems, but a life with power. 8. The real difference between people. In the end, the great divide between people isn't about luck or ease or privilege. It's about the way they see the world. Most wait for Fridays. Some create their own sunshine every day. Most beg for calm. Some learn to carry it. This isn't about perfection. It's about practice. It's about recognizing that each day is a new chance to reclaim your mind, to own your story, and to generate joy from within. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, "I'll be happy when," stop, and instead ask, "How can I choose peace right now with what I already have?" Because in that moment, you stop waiting. You begin living. Part 3. You can't control the world, but you can control your response. One of the most subtle but powerful misconceptions we carry through life is the belief that peace will arrive once everything around us is just right. That happiness is waiting on someone else's behavior or on the world finally becoming less chaotic. So we wait. We wait for the job to get easier, for people to behave better, for external stress to vanish before allowing ourselves to feel settled. But the longer we wait, the more it becomes clear. That day may never come. We hope others will evolve. We wish for external conditions to soften, and in that waiting, we grow resentful, frustrated, and tense. This common cycle of misplaced hope isn't just ineffective, it's the very root of our inner unrest. Stoic philosophers taught a radical alternative. Give up trying to bend the world and start mastering your reaction to it. Because true power never lies in controlling people or events. It lies in mastering how we respond to them. 1. The trap of conditional peace. You've probably met someone who's always complaining about their boss, their spouse, their co-workers. They believed that if just one person changed, they could finally breathe. And maybe you felt that way too. If only he would understand, if only she would stop, if they would just listen. It feels reasonable, but it's a trap. This way of thinking places our emotional state at the mercy of external variables we cannot dictate. And the longer we wait for others to shift, the more helpless we feel. 2. The story of Emma and Daniel. Let's explore this through the story of Emma and Daniel, a couple whose relationship quietly became defined by tension and unmet expectations. Emma often felt like her peace depended on Daniel doing things differently, listening more, arguing less, being more emotionally open. She replayed her frustrations to friends, hoping he'd eventually wake up and change. One night, during yet another unresolved disagreement, Daniel calmly said, "Maybe peace isn't about waiting for me to change, but learning to live with what you can't control." Emma initially bristled. It felt unfair. Why should she be the one to do the adjusting? But something in his words lingered. Days later, she began to see it. Her deepest stress wasn't caused by Daniel's habits, but by her internal resistance to them. She wasn't simply reacting to him, she was trying to control him, and failing. It was this very shift in awareness that marked the beginning of her transformation. 3. Epictetus and the path to emotional freedom. The Stoic teacher Epictetus once wrote, "You may not be able to choose your circumstances, but you can always choose how to respond to them." It sounds simple, but it is the foundation of emotional strength. It doesn't mean you agree with what's happening. It doesn't mean injustice becomes acceptable or that discomfort is ignored. It means you stop expecting the world to behave as you wish, and you start behaving according to your values, regardless of the world. This is where true liberation begins. When we stop demanding the external world change and instead redirect our focus inward, we discover something extraordinary, a kind of peace that cannot be taken from us. 4. The cost of trying to control others. Think about what happens when you ignore this wisdom. You end up in a loop of emotional exhaustion, constantly trying to influence the behavior, opinions, or attitudes of others. You become reactive, anxious, endlessly hoping for different outcomes. And when those changes don't come, your mood drops. Your sense of control evaporates. Your happiness becomes tethered to things you'll never fully manage. Someone else's tone, someone else's decisions, someone else's growth timeline. This is how so many people live, trapped in a feedback loop of disappointment and dependency. 5. Acceptance is not weakness. Now, let's be clear. Acceptance is not about giving up. It's not passive resignation. It's not tolerating mistreatment or pretending things are fine when they aren't. Acceptance is an act of clarity and strength. It's saying, this is what is. Now what can I do with it? Rather than waiting for life to become easier, you meet life as it is, with grounded awareness and self-command. It's about reclaiming your energy from what can't be changed and redirecting it to what can. 6. Emma's turn inward. Returning to Emma's story. Once she shifted her focus inward, she began noticing her own emotional patterns. The way she interpreted Daniel's silence, the expectations she placed on conversations, the meaning she assigned to small disagreements. She stopped trying to force Daniel to evolve, and instead began choosing her own reactions. She set healthier boundaries. She started noticing and appreciating what Daniel did right, instead of obsessing over what he didn't. Her new calm began to reshape the atmosphere between them. Without accusation, without ultimatums, she invited a new kind of space into their relationship. And in that space, Daniel began to open up. Not because she demanded it, but because he felt safe to. Her peace was no longer dependent on his perfection. It emerged from her own clarity and strength. 7. The wisdom of the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius, another giant of Stoic philosophy, often reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Life will always deliver people who misunderstand you, situations that frustrate you, and outcomes that disappoint you. That's the nature of existence. The question is, what do you do with it? Do you spiral into victimhood, clinging to the idea that peace will arrive once others behave? Or do you embrace the Stoic path, one of internal authority, where the focus returns to your own thoughts, actions, and values? This isn't detachment. This is self-mastery. 8. Resilience isn't waiting for calm. It's creating it. Every day, the world will test your resolve. You'll face triggers, tests, and disruptions. But your real strength lies not in controlling those things, but in directing your response. What meaning do you assign to the hard moment? What internal story are you telling? The Stoics encourage us to ask, how can I turn this into a chance to grow? Not because the pain disappears, but because growth gives it purpose. 9. Stop waiting for the world to change. Most people spend decades waiting for the world to be kinder, smoother, easier. They never realize that the shift they crave was always just one decision away. That decision, change the lens you use. Don't expect the storm to stop. Learn how to navigate it. Don't hope others will behave differently. Focus on becoming the person you want to be, regardless of what others do. Because the deepest form of peace isn't dependent on anything around you. It's built on the quiet strength inside you. 10. This is the path forward. So when you catch yourself thinking, if only they would, pause. Ask instead, what part of this can I control? What kind of person do I want to be in this situation? That's where freedom lives. Not in others changing, but in you choosing. And when that choice is made over and over again, something profound begins to shift. You stop feeling like life is something happening to you, and start feeling like someone who is actively shaping it from within. This is the Stoic promise, that even in a world you cannot control, you can always control your response. And that alone can change everything. Part 4. Perspective is power. How your mind shapes your reality. There's a truth so fundamental, so deeply transformative, that most people never fully grasp it. Your perspective, the way you interpret the world, shapes your experience of life far more than the events themselves. Two people can live through the exact same situation and emerge with entirely different stories, one broken, the other strengthened. The difference isn't in what occurred, it's in how they saw it, how they chose to frame it in their minds. The Stoics understood this with astonishing clarity, and modern psychology now echoes what ancient wisdom taught, that our mental lens either frees us or traps us. 1. 2 patients, 1 window. To illustrate this, imagine 2 patients confined to the same hospital room. Both are gravely ill, bedridden, and desperate for something, anything, that might lift their spirits. One bed sits beside the room's only window. Each afternoon, the man closest to it describes what he sees to his roommate: sunlight touching treetops, children flying kites, lovers strolling in the park, blossoms rustling in the wind. The vivid images bring the outside world to life in the imagination of the second patient, who, unable to see out himself, clings to these stories as a daily dose of hope. But over time, something shifts. The second man begins to feel a quiet bitterness. Why does he get the view? Why am I denied the beauty, the joy, the escape? Soon, admiration turns to envy. Gratitude sours into resentment. Then one day, the patient by the window passes away. The remaining man asks to be moved into that bed, aching for the view he's long imagined. Nurses oblige and gently lift him toward the glass, but outside that window is only a blank brick wall. There never was a park, no lovers, no kites. The entire view had been a gift of imagination, painted with kindness by a man who chose to see beauty where there was none. 2. The mind is the filter. What this story reveals is something profound. Our outer reality is filtered through the lens of inner perception. The patient by the window didn't escape suffering. He didn't deny pain. But he chose to frame his situation with meaning and imagination, to fill a void with life-giving stories. His attitude uplifted not just himself, but someone else. The other patient allowed his perception to narrow. He focused on what he lacked and allowed envy to rot his peace. Same room, same illness, entirely different experiences. 3. The Stoic lens. This is the essence of the Stoic path. Life itself, said the Stoics, isn't inherently good or bad. It simply is. It's our interpretation, our thoughts, judgments, and mental framing that give it color. Epictetus put it bluntly: it's not the event, it's your reaction to the event. That single shift Seeing perception as the gatekeeper of experience is what separates the anxious from the anchored. You're not a puppet pulled by fate. You're a sculptor, carving meaning out of chaos. 4. Why things alone don't fulfill us. Look around the modern world. People chase wealth, recognition, possessions, believing that more will lead to peace. And yet so many arrive at those destinations only to feel emptier than before. Why? Because fulfillment doesn't come from what you accumulate. It comes from how you interpret your life. The Stoics saw this truth long ago, that no amount of external achievement can compensate for a mind clouded by bitterness, fear, or envy, and that even in hardship there is a way to frame things that leads to strength rather than despair. 5. Find meaning in the moment. The man by the window didn't need trees or crowds to see joy. He created it from within, choosing to focus on what was beautiful, even if imagined. And in doing so, he gave hope to another person, if only briefly. The other man, consumed by comparison, lost sight of what he had, lost even the comfort of a shared experience because his mind narrowed around lack. This dynamic is alive in all of us. We can see a rainy day as a ruined plan, or as a chance to slow down. We can see a criticism as an insult, or an invitation to reflect. We can see a failure as proof we're inadequate, or as the soil where growth begins. The situation is neutral. The meaning is up to you. 6. Ask better questions. When faced with difficulty, most people ask, "Why me?" or "When will this end?" But the Stoic mindset asks different questions. What can I learn from this? How can I respond in alignment with my values? What kind of person do I want to be, even now? These questions don't erase hardship, but they shape your experience of it. They build mental habits that make you stronger, steadier, more whole. 7. Attitude is the architect. Your perspective doesn't just change how you feel about life, it changes how you live it. A negative attitude can make paradise feel like prison. A resilient mindset can turn a blank wall into a window. The key is not to wait for joy to arrive. It's to practice seeing joy already present. This takes effort, especially in moments of pain. But it's precisely in those moments that perspective matters most. It's the difference between breaking and bending. 8. Every day, a new choice. You don't need a dramatic life event to begin this shift. Every day gives you dozens of small invitations to practice. A delayed train, a misunderstanding, a rejection. In those moments, your mind reaches for meaning. Will you choose bitterness, or will you seek insight? You can begin by simply noticing. Catch yourself when you say, "This ruins everything." Pause. Challenge it. Ask instead, "What else could this be?" That pause, that crack in the automatic reaction, is where new life begins. 9. A mind trained to see the good. The Stoics didn't wear blinders. They weren't naive. They knew the world could be cruel, uncertain, unfair, but they also knew that how you walk through that world determines who you become. A mind trained to see the good is not in denial, it is courageous. It says, "Even here, I can find something worthwhile." That is the ultimate freedom, not freedom from difficulty, but freedom within it. 10. Your sunshine comes from within. So let this be your reminder. It's not your income, your status, your circumstances that determine your joy. It's your mindset. When you choose to reframe challenges, to look for meaning, to notice the beauty hiding beneath the ordinary, you carry your own light into the darkness. You become the source, and no storm can steal that from you. Closing. Reflection. True happiness isn't a reward granted by luck or status. It's a way of living, a habit of thought, a skill of perception. It's found in the decision to choose gratitude over envy, to choose meaning over bitterness, to carry your own weather instead of waiting for a sunny day. And like all great skills, it's built day by day, thought by thought. So when life next throws you into confusion, remember this: you cannot always choose what happens, but you can always choose what it means. You can become the calm within the storm. You can become the light when the world grows dark. You can shape a life not ruled by events, but guided by values. Train your mind, see the good, and you will discover a joy that no circumstance can ever steal.